Alright, so it's been over 30 days since I've been using the new iPhone 16 Pro Max, and this is typically when we truly discover the positive and negative aspects of owning this device. We're going to be investigating my thoughts on the cameras, design, battery life, iOS 18, and Apple Intelligence to help you decide if you should buy this phone or not for 2024 and in the new year. Starting with the cameras, Apple put this new button called Camera Control, and it's a fitting name because it's the theme of this year's new iPhones. This idea that Apple is giving you complete control of the look of your photos and videos. I was excited about this new feature, to be honest. This idea that my iPhone would feel more like a real camera with a real shutter button, with easily accessible menu options, but that was far from my experience. It's been surprisingly tough to use this button since day one. I thought maybe things would get better over time. I really wanted to love this feature, but I'm weeks into my journey with this phone, and camera control has now been reserved for just launching my camera app while I go back to using the touchscreen like I always have all of these years. The biggest pain point is the discomfort and awkwardness of this button. If you're not already caught up on how this works, with a single click, it takes a photo. Simple enough, right? But in practice, even this basic gesture just feels a little clunky, especially on the larger Pro Max. I find it hard to keep the phone still as you press the button. It sort of moves out of place a bit, which was never a problem when using the touchscreen. This is a little bit easier to do on the regular Pro, to be honest though, because it is smaller, so something to keep in mind. Holding down this button lets you record video, but even here it's a little weird because as soon as you let go, the video recording stops. I couldn't find anywhere in the settings to keep the video recording after the fact. You can access more functionality by lightly pressing down to get access to zoom, which feels okay. It can detect momentum, so really slow or fast swipes will translate directly to how quickly the zoom is changing. But unfortunately, doing this on the touchscreen is easier and less of a hassle. More settings can be found with a double tap on camera control, giving you a menu of customization options like exposure, styles, and tone. You can lightly press into any of these categories to adjust your image directly from the button. The idea of this is so cool. To dial in my image all from a button in real time sounds awesome. But when life happens fast, which usually it does, with how slow it takes me to dial in all of these settings, I worry that I'm just gonna miss the moment right in front of me that I wanna capture. This isn't a worry on the touchscreen. I can quickly choose the photographic style and adjust the tone of this style on the D-pad all in one place. If I wanted to do simple things on camera control, I'd have to go to photographic style first, select the one I want with a couple swipes, then double tap to go back to the main menu, then swipe to go to tone, double tap into that menu. You get the point. It's a lot more steps to achieve the same outcomes. Honestly speaking, I kept thinking for a long time that maybe it's me. Like maybe I just need to get used to camera control, but it's not me. It's definitely the button. It's the coolest theoretical idea that Apple has proposed for their camera system in a long time, but it's just not good yet. It needs a lot of work to be better, in my opinion. Okay, so now that the bad news is out of the way, let's talk about the good stuff, because there's a lot here when it comes to the cameras, and that is the physical lenses themselves. Before we keep going, I want to share some really cool iPhone accessories for my friends over at Torres, who are the official partner of today's video. First up is their O-Stand 360 spin case. It's protective, MagSafe compatible, and has a built-in phone grip and 360 kickstand that adapts to everything I do, whether I'm browsing social media in portrait orientation or watching videos in landscape. The case feels great in the hand with its textured back, and it's drop-proof up to 12 feet, so you get strong protection without adding bulk. There's even a dedicated cutout for easy camera control access, which is perfect for capturing quick shots. Torres also sent over their Glasgow X screen protector. Installation for this was an absolute breeze, just snap and pull, with 97% coverage and military-grade protection. It's almost invisible, but keeps your screen safe from scratches and drops. Plus, it doesn't interfere with the display's clarity at all. Looks fantastic. What I really like about Torres is how well these products fit into my day-to-day life. They're practical, well-designed, and easy to use. Torres was actually the first to introduce the O-shaped stand case, and their commitment to thoughtful design here really shows. If you're looking for accessories that not only protect your iPhone, but also make it more functional, Torres is definitely worth checking out by clicking the link down below. The photos and videos you can capture on here are genuinely impressive. And by the way, this year both the Pro and Pro Max come with the same camera sensors, which wasn't the case in the previous iPhones. So now you can choose the size that works for you without sacrificing camera quality or features like you had to in the past. Starting with photos, then we'll touch on videos later, it's always been a really good experience to capture still moments on iPhone in the last few years. It can consistently take great photos during the day that rarely leave me disappointed, especially because I shoot all of my pictures in ProRAW, which allows for more control in post-processing to get the exact look and mood of the image that I'm going for. Fun fact, there's a new space-saving ProRAW format called the JPEG XL Lossy, which is approximately 50 megabytes less memory per photo while sacrificing very little in quality. This is a big deal for professionals and just enthusiasts that love to take a lot of photos off of their iPhone on the ProRAW format. Like, you're going to be saving a ton of space on your phone and on iCloud. To my knowledge, not much has changed in either the 48 megapixel main lens or the 12 megapixel telephoto from the 15 Pro, but there is a new 48 megapixel ultra-wide sensor that, to my eyes, looks sharper and noticeably better than previous iPhones. During the day, it's fantastic as always. Like, I love taking ultra-wide pictures off this phone, but when it comes to nighttime photography, the main lens continues to be the much more viable option. I cannot rely on the ultra wide at night. The results are too dark and grimy in comparison to how much cleaner the main lens results are. I really hope Apple one day could figure all of this out, because it is a bit of a shame that I have to put the ultra wide lens to bed when it does get dark outside. Another big thing this year in the world of photography on iPhone, which I sort of alluded to earlier in this video, is photographic styles. Because I shoot everything in ProRAW for the ultimate control over how I want my photos to look, I won't be making much use of this in the future, but that doesn't mean I don't appreciate what this is and what it means for the average iPhone photographer out there, which is a new way to adjust how your camera processes colors, skin tones, and shadows, all within the basic camera app. Apple says these aren't just filters. In fact, the 5 new undertone settings adjust for skin tone and appearance of only the subject, while the 9 mood-based styles affect the entire photo and not just the skin tones. It's honestly fun to swipe through these styles and see how your preview of the image can change in real time, on top of being able to use the D-pad slider to make further adjustments in tone, saturation, and intensity of the profile you selected. It definitely takes some getting used to though, as I wasn't quite sure at first what changes were happening to my photo as I was moving the sliders around, but you start to develop an eye for it. I've discovered that bringing tone down increases contrast, while sliding it up decreases contrast, and moving the slider left or right affects the overall saturation and total color you see. If I had to pick my personal favorites, the gold and rose gold undertones are the ones I like to choose the most because of my darker skin complexion, whereas in the mood settings, I actually really liked how dramatic and cozy turned out in some situations. Oh, you also aren't going to be locked into the style that you picked. You can change it completely after the photo has been taken, or you can just take a regular photo and decide on the photographic style later. You get a lot of flexibility here. The only thing you need to keep in mind is that you can't use the new styles of older iPhone photos that aren't from the 16 lineup, as Apple actually changed their imaging pipeline process to make all of this stuff possible on the new iPhones. When it comes to videos on iPhone, I say this every year. Apple is in a league of its own that's far ahead than its competitors, thanks to ProRes log format. I'm a professional, and the fact that I can make iPhone footage look very close to my cinema camera means the iPhone will always be a reliable B camera anytime I'm traveling and need to film for you guys. To be fair though, like, obviously not everybody watching this video is using ProRes, probably a lot of you will never use it, and the stock look coming straight out of the camera on the iPhone still does look really good and will exceed the expectations of most people. Okay, so when it comes to the design of the new 16 Pro Max, I went from liking the desert titanium I chose to not liking it, to liking it, to not liking it, to liking it, not liking it. Like, you get the point. It would look stunning in some lighting. In other lighting, it would look like a pale pink color, which wasn't really the vibe I was trying to go for this iPhone. I'd say the true desert aspects of this phone can always be seen on the gold accents of the camera rings and the titanium sides of the phone itself. I've said this before, but if I could do my purchase over again, I'd get a white titanium Pro Max, as that's the color I currently have on the Pro, and it just looks so clean and nice. But neither of these phones look as fun and inviting as this teal iPhone 16 Plus that I have. This thing looks incredible, and I wish Apple would live a little and give us colors on the Pro and not just shades all the time. A lot of you watching will have never owned a 15 Pro from last year, so you would have missed the weight reductions that we are getting on the iPhones now. The titanium makes a difference to the phone feeling lighter, and I find it's more pronounced on the Pro Max just because it was hefty in the past. So if you found that those phones were too heavy before, it might be a good weight now for you in present day. I personally can't discern the difference in weight between the Pro and the Pro Max. Even though the Pro Max is technically heavier, a lot of it is because the weight distribution feels a lot better on the larger iPhone because of its size, whereas on the regular Pro, all the weight feels more concentrated. So to my hands, the weight between these two is negligible. So don't let weight dictate your choice of debating between the Pro or the Pro Max, in my opinion. Other benefits of titanium is the durability. I've owned this phone for weeks now, and you can see there are basically no visible scuffs or scratches on the device. The phone remains pretty eye clean to me. In terms of the display, when I took the 16 Pro Max out of the box for the first time and I booted it up, I noticed right away how much larger the phone felt from previous years. It felt massive, honestly, and it still feels really big. It's now 6.9 inches diagonally, making it the largest iPhone Apple has ever made. Does this bother me? No, like I'm in my large phone era at the moment, so I want the biggest phones I can get my hands on, and this iPhone feels awesome to me. For context, I don't have tiny hands, but they are average to maybe above average, so in the hand, the phone does feel big to me. I have to maneuver and do hand gymnastics anytime I want to hit camera control, power button, volume buttons. I'm constantly needing to adjust the height of the phone in my hand anytime I need to press something. It doesn't annoy me though, but I can see how much it would annoy other people. I've sort of just accepted that if you want a big iPhone, this all just comes with the territory. It's gonna feel huge in your pocket. I'm just gonna let you know right now, like I avoid putting this iPhone in my pocket anytime I can. But with these drawbacks come a huge benefit that we get from the larger size of this iPhone, and that's the battery life. It's so freaking good on this iPhone, and it wasn't always the case for me actually with the 16 Pro Max. If you haven't watched my week in the life of the 16 Pro Max, I highly recommend you check it out. It's probably my favorite video I've ever made. It's so detailed, it's fun, like you're gonna like it. And you can see in real time, my Pro Max wasn't lasting as long as I'd hope in that video. It would die at like 5 to 7 p.m. usually. A lot of it was because I was on beta software. So if you want the best battery out of your iPhone, do not download public betas or developer betas. They seriously reduce the battery life of the phone because those iOS versions aren't optimized. Like guys, I had to format my Pro Max, which was very annoying, and I had to get it back to a normal iOS version, which was 18.0.1. And now my battery life is really good again. It's hard to give numbers since I don't scientifically measure battery life. I just go off what my experience is and what it's feeling like. And if you aren't using your phone nonstop the entire day, like doing heavy things on it, I genuinely could bring my Pro Max to a second day without needing to charge it. Like it was that good. Okay, now I want to talk about iOS 18, the new chips, and end off with my thoughts on Apple Intelligence. The big upgrade here is Apple's new A18 Pro chip, which features their second gen 3nm technology, and I probably just spoke a lot of gibberish, so what does that all mean in practice? Basically a smaller, faster, and more power efficient chip that should deliver a smoother experience across the board. Not that anybody was really complaining about iPhones being slow. We should expect to get improved battery life, better multitasking, and none of the annoying slowdowns or overheating even when you are pushing the phone to its limits. And that's the thing that I want to kind of hold on here for a second, is that has actually held up to be true in my daily use. This phone hasn't overheated on me once. And something that I really appreciate too is that it can actually reach its peak brightness outside. Like that's a huge improvement over last year's 15 Pro Max, which would overheat a lot and it would dim in direct sunlight, so I could never really see the display in its full brightness all the time. When it comes to apps and the experience of iOS, it still feels ahead of the game in my opinion. There's just something about how apps work on iPhones where they just feel more polished, they feel smoother and more responsive than on Android. It's always a little bit less refined over there. As for gaming, the performance has jumped again this year. I'm not a big or heavy mobile gamer, but I tested out Warzone at max settings and I had a lot of fun. It ran really well on the phone. That's down to things like hardware accelerated ray tracing and dynamic caching, all of those behind the scene improvements in the chip. Plus, with iOS 18's new game mode, the iPhone cuts back on a lot of background tasks to keep the performance dialed in during really high intense gaming sessions, which is really cool. Among other new features in iOS 18, the Photos app stands out as it's been completely overhauled. And I know a lot of people, like, let me know in the comments down below, I know a lot of people who really didn't like the change at first. The navigation feels very unfamiliar and it's very easy to get confused. But honestly, after a while, you do get used to it, and now I find it perfectly usable now. One feature I've actually grown to enjoy is creating instant memory movies from your photo library. It's super simple. You just have a prompt and then it's going to create a movie based on that prompt from the photos that you do have. It's fun. I think you guys are going to like it. Home screen customization also took a big leap forward. You can now adjust basically everything from changes to icon sizes and switching between dark and light modes, or even creating a totally unique look and layout that was not possible in the past. I like to keep things very simple on my iPhone, so larger icons with no text underneath for a much cleaner look. Control Center also got a major refresh, allowing you to completely redesign it. You can now add, remove, and resize controls based on what you need at a glance. My favorite addition actually to mine personally is the Apple TV remote, because I've made it a lot larger and easier to access now, so controlling my TV is always just a swipe away on a big giant button on my phone. But hands down, the best feature has to be the new RCS messaging support for Android users. If you got friends with Androids or you're switching between the two platforms, this is a game changer. You finally get features like read receipts, typing indicators, and real-time messaging across both systems. So make sure everybody that you know that owns this new iPhone or even previous iPhones takes advantage of this. Like, this is a huge win for both Android and iPhone users. Okay, so let's address the elephant in the room now. Where is all the cool Apple Intelligence stuff that we saw at WWDC and the September event? Well, it's not here yet. As of this video, the iOS 18.1 update, set to release sometime in October, will give us basic access to things like writing tools, type to Siri, and a new Siri animation, but like, if we're being honest, it is an underwhelming initial rollout. The real game changers like ChatGPT integration, Genmoji, and personal contextual awareness with Siri, all the stuff that will actually truly revolutionize, I feel, like how we use iPhones, won't arrive until sometime in 2025. And that's kind of the tough part. Apple made these features a big selling point, and it's my job to review those claims and then tell you whether they're worth buying the phone for or not. But I can't test like what's not available, so I can't confirm whether these big promises will live up to the hype. It's honestly surprising to me considering that this is in the same year that Apple finally released a complete dedicated calculator app for iPad, like something that they've refused to launch for years until it was absolutely perfect. This is also the same company also rolling out AI features that are just not ready yet, and they're far from it, and they're far from being perfect. So from a company known for taking their time until something is truly ready and announcing AI tools that are still in development as a reason to buy the phone, like, it just feels out of character for Apple. And honestly, I think if it was up to them, I don't think that they would have pushed AI this year at all. Like, I'm being completely honest. Like, this is just a really long rollout for them. Like, this isn't stuff that Apple really does. I suspect investor pressure and market competition forced their hand, like making them reveal their progress with AI sooner than they probably were comfortable with. And now, like, that they had to do that, we're sort of seeing the consequences of all of this, for better or worse, which is like, we're not getting any of it right away. So should you buy this iPhone then with everything that I just said? Like, I mean, on its own, it's an incredible device, like even without access to Apple Intelligence, to be honest. And let's be real for a second, with all the buzz around AI, a lot of people are starting to feel fatigued. including me. AI is everywhere, like honestly everywhere. And for many regular users, it's becoming more of a noise than a selling point. Like, I know that I care about these upcoming features that Apple is bringing because I think they can actually do these features. Like, I really hope they can. And I think a lot of you watching care about this stuff too. But are we the majority? Like, I don't know, like, I doubt we are. Most people probably don't even mind that this stuff is coming later this year or really don't care. They just want a new iPhone that has better battery life and better cameras, which these iPhones do today. And if we think about it, like, Apple has a pretty solid track record of delivering on its promises. So personally, I'm confident that these features will work as advertised once they roll out, but it doesn't matter what I think. Like, I'm not a genie, like I can't predict the future. So I think you should make your decision to buy the iPhone, like, based on what it is now and not what it might be in the future. So my recommendations. If you are already sold on the 16 Pro Max based on what it is today, you're not gonna be disappointed with this phone. Like, this is an amazing phone without AI. But if you are someone who's mainly excited about Apple Intelligence, you might wanna wait until these features are fully released before making your decision, because it is entirely possible that when this stuff comes, it's not gonna work properly and it's gonna suck. And then, like, we don't know. Like, this is all in beta. This rollout is a really long rollout. Like, we have to wait and see if Apple can really do this stuff. So I would rather you save your money and maybe see if it actually works, because it's a big price to pay for these phones these days. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to click the video right here on the screen to watch my week in the life with the 16 Pro Max. It's a 40-minute movie, honestly. I think you guys are gonna enjoy it, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.